I'm going to prove that I am truly an Arizonan, born and raised. It's only going to get up to 100 today. It was down to 86 last night. It's like, man, I'm going to need a jacket or something. It's like, wow, it's late August and 86. Oh my goodness. I have hope. I have hope that late October, November, it's coming and it's finally going to cool off. But I do pray that the rains finally come for our monsoon season, especially up in the high country. You know, just on a side note, I'm so proud to be your pastor. I was walking through the parking lot this morning on the way in to go join them for the ministry fair in the hall, and I invite you to join us after Mass. And I'm walking through the parking lot, and I don't know, maybe subconsciously I'm looking for Jeeps. And sometimes I see them like, ooh, I don't know that person, but that's a really cool Jeep. And someone had on their little Jeep Liberty the helmet of the Mandalorian. And I look at if you're familiar with the series, I look at the Mandalorian as a testimony to the sanctity of life. Even though I don't think the creators intended that, it really comes out. And right now I have a Catholic gentleman who's making me, he's going to make me a decal to go on the back of my window, and it's going to have the Mandalorian with little baby Yoda. And I don't call him by his name because his name is really stupid. Grogu. I mean, come on, it sounds like Gugu. But it's going to have the Mandalorian kneeling at the cross, and it's going to say, "This is the way. This is the way." And we celebrate that way today. In our first reading, which comes to us hundreds of years before Christ, we hear foreigners will come and worship on my holy mountain. And my house will be a house of prayer for all peoples, not just those select few from the ancient times, all peoples. And you're like, man, thank God that happened. Thank God the ministry of God included the Gentiles, because most of us do not have Jewish roots. And we see this on display in the gospel. Jesus encounters this Syrophoenician woman. He's up in the region of Tyre and Sidon, which is north of Galilee and outside the realm of the Jewish people. It's in the realm of the Gentiles. Perhaps he goes up there to take a break from the Pharisees and scribes who've been hammering him. Needs time to pray, time to recollect. And he's there. And that area north of there is now Lebanon. Father Charlie has cousins that I know, and they are from Lebanon, and they tell me what a beautiful country it is and how sad so many things have happened there that they really were forced to emigrate here. And they talked about their lives as Christians. I love sitting and talking with them because they're the real deal. They're the real deal. We have it so easy compared to what they had. They talk about their lives being in danger every day from the Muslims. Even the wife was shot at one point, and they emigrated here. Wonderful people. And they're like, no, these folks, they know what it is to be a follower of Christ. He's up in that northern region, and this woman comes to him who's a Canaanite, the Syrophoenician woman, and the Canaanites were infamous in the mind of the Jews. You can go way back in those early books of the Bible and see this. Doesn't deter this woman. She comes, she's like, I've heard about this itinerant preacher, and my daughter is ailing from this demon, and nobody can do anything about it, but this itinerant preacher, I hear he's a healer. He's a special guy. I need to go to him no matter what. And she goes. Sir, my daughter suffers from a demon. Please help me. And at the surface level, it's like, is Jesus ignoring her? He doesn't say a word. And then she petitions him again. And he says, I was sent for the lost tribes of Israel, not for the Gentiles in his essence. But we find out that his ministry does include the Gentiles. We remember the healing of the centurion's servant and other things that have happened in his ministry, and especially after the resurrection and the ministry of St. Paul that we hear from in the second reading, to go out to the Gentiles. Thank God his ministry involved the Gentiles. That's how we got here. And he says, she's like, please, my daughter is suffering greatly. And he said, it's not right for me to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs. Wow, is Jesus insulting her? It seems on the surface level it is, but if he is, and if he isn't a grouchy snit, that would make him a sinner. He's not a sinner. There's got to be more happening here than what we can see on the surface. Is he testing her faith? Is he seeing if she can look inside and see how deeply she is in need and petitioning him? And she says something really incredible. Lord, even the dogs will eat the scraps. And she's like, woman, here's the key. Woman. This is what he calls his mother. Woman. Not you Canaanite. Not you Syrophoenician woman, not you Gentile, you infidel. No, woman, great is your faith. And great is your love for your daughter. It's reflective of the love that God has for his adopted children. May it be done for you according to your desire. And from that moment, that daughter is healed. Never give up on prayer. Oh my gosh, the world tells us, man, just give up and give in. Give up and give in. Sometimes our kids tell us that, sometimes grandkids, sometimes other family members. Maybe they're living a sinful life and you're like, well, how do I reconcile this with my Catholicism? How can I be a good Catholic and still love my kid or my grandkid or whomever? Give up and give in, the world will say. The devil will say it too. Oh man, he whispers that in your ear. You wouldn't believe what he says to preachers. He'll say, hey, you got to quit preaching on that hard doctrine. It bothers people. Man, sometimes you'll get feedback from people out there that know people maybe on a deeper level than you, and they said, oh, I can't believe he preached on that. I'm done. And thank God you'll see a post. I'll see a post on Facebook from another priest that says, sometimes we don't like it, we don't want it. Sometimes the prodigal son needs to go. I don't like it. I want them to stay here and hear the message until they can dance to the tune. But sometimes it has to be. We remember Jesus in John chapter 6. Hey, this is a hard saying, Lord. How can we follow this? And some, he didn't want it. He was dismayed. We can see that in the writings. They turned and followed him no longer. Lord, where are we to go? You have the words of eternal life. I don't completely understand this, but that stuff out there, it ain't working. So we hear from our own fatigue sometimes, give up and give in, from the devil and from the world. And I'm telling you, no. Look at the example of the Syrophoenician woman, the Canaanite woman. She's like, Lord, even if you give me a scrap, that's better than all of this stuff out here, even a little tiny scrap. There was a priest recently who received a kind of an emergency phone call from a woman whose daughter had come of age. And she put her backpack on her shoulder and she says, I'm out of here for the next few days. Where are you going? I'm going to the surgery. I'm going to the surgeon to have my breasts removed because I want to be a boy. Can you imagine that woman on the phone and the desperation and the pain? And she told the priest that the insurance was paying for it, and for whatever reason, the insurance company wouldn't let her cancel the insurance, so the procedure could not be done. And the priest recommended to her, it's like, I don't know exactly what to do in this situation, but I would find out where the clinic is, and I'd be out there with the sign, this place amputates perfectly good, healthy organs. I would see if I could get a lawyer, and even if I couldn't, I would call up the surgeon and say, you put a scalpel to my daughter, I'm going to sue the pants off of you. Even if you wouldn't be able to do that, you could certainly tell him that. And then when the daughter comes in, hey man, this is too much of a financial liability for me. I'm not going to do this. Sadly, this did happen. And the temptation, I'm sure, for this woman is give up and give in. No. Persistence in prayer. There's a man named Walt Heyer. I recommend you look at his website. He lived his life with the facade of being a woman. He had surgeries. And he said, I remember talking to him personally. He said, Father John, I was trying to fill a spiritual wound with all this stuff outside with surgery. And he said it did not work. He's come back to Jesus. He's had reconstruction done. And that's what I want for somebody. He told us his best friend persisted in prayer all those years. He lost his wife, he lost his kids. All those years persisted. Persist in prayer even when it seems hopeless. It might be that you don't see the result of your prayer on this side of heaven. And then we go to him. We go to him like St. Joseph, like Mary, and we're before the throne of God, bringing those same petitions to him, but it's perfected, polished up. Another friend, Rylene, she lived an immoral life for a long time. And she talks about, she's on the internet, Catholic speaker. Her mom never gave up. Never gave up. And one day, through a course of events and all these crises, she finds herself at the door of the church. Oddly enough, confessions were going on. God bumps just thinking about it, and she walks into the confessional, bless me, Father, for I've sinned. It's been 27 years since my last confession. My sins are. And she has come back to the practice of her faith. Her mother never gave up. Persistent prayer like that woman. We keep knocking on the door of God. We keep knocking on that door. It may be open now or after we go to him.